Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we begin our discussion on could the Traitor Primarchs be redeemed? And if so, who? General spoiler warning to begin, as we will be discussing general events from across the Warhammer 40k lore, so you have been warned. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Okay, so one of the most popular questions I get asked is, Rho, do you think any of the Traitor Primarchs will or could be redeemed? And well, it's really two different questions. Will they? No. I absolutely don't see any Traitor Primarchs being redeemed. But there could be one caveat to that, so we'll discuss that when we get there. But could any of them be redeemed? Well, that is much more of an interesting question. Okay, before we begin, when we are talking redemption, to me it doesn't just mean the Emperor's power. I believe there has to be a part, at least a glimmer, deep down inside of the Primarch they once was. The merest fraction of regret still lurking inside. Then could that, combined with the Emperor's power, be enough to bring them back to the fold? So, going through the Traitor Primarchs in Legion order, let's begin with Fulgrim, the Phoenician. Could he be redeemed? Of all the fallen Traitor Primarchs, it always feels to me that Fulgrim is the most far gone, the most removed from the Primarch he was at his birth. The man he was supposed to be. Obviously this is just a personal feeling, and all the demon Primarchs are most likely equally lost as each other, completely enslaved to the ruinous powers. And I think my opinion comes from the sheer levels of depravity that Fulgrim has fallen to. It's just a different order of comprehension to the Primarch he was meant to be. Sure, he's all talk and bravado, and would claim defiance of the Emperor, until possibly faced with that power once more. I've no doubt out of all of them, he'd be the one to turn into a shrieking violet when faced by his father. But despite all that, you may be surprised to hear me say, he wouldn't be able to be redeemed. The thrill he would receive from the fear of encountering the power of his father once more, the perverse pleasure he takes from the pain, I just don't see how the Emperor could reach the son that once was. Every sensation he would have from the encounter would just push him further into the embrace of Slaanesh. Fulgrim is too far lost. Perturabo, the Lord of Iron. Now, Perturabo is an interesting one, because we've seen absolutely nothing of him since his elevation to demonhood. We just don't know what manner of creature he has truly become. But we did see plenty of the Lord of Iron during the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy, and most importantly, his reason for betraying the Emperor, which, to be brief, can essentially be boiled down to a feeling of neglect and self-guilt. And while these can absolutely be strong motivators, I really think Perturabo would see his unshakable resolve crumble if he were once again face to face with an aspect of his father. Just take how he acted when they first met. The eagerness and elation as he was running to the meeting, the undulated joy pouring out of every fibre of his being. Seriously, it's a surprisingly moving scene. Something you would never have expected from the long typecast Lord of Iron. And it really highlighted the inner depths that goes on inside this stern character. If he were to meet his father, feel that aura once again, after all this time, because for me that is far more important than the Emperor's power here. All Perturabo ever wanted was to feel wanted, to feel loved and appreciated, to be somewhere he fit in. The Emperor's power may drive back the chaos, but it's his words that would mean the most. Reminding Perturabo of that fateful meeting, of why he would be the Emperor's Lord of Iron. Perturabo could absolutely be redeemed, and it could quite possibly be the most touching of any redemption. Conrad Kurz. Okay, so obviously he is kind of dead at the moment, which admittedly puts a bit of a hitch on any redeeming going on. But assuming one of the many resurrection theories took place, could Conrad then be redeemed? Now, I'll admit I'm a little torn with this one, because he's certainly no demon Primarch, but he is absolutely insane. And as much as the Emperor loyalist that I am, I can't help but feel if he had just intervened earlier, Kurz would never have been lost in the first place. But the most telling moment we have that really gives us insight into Kurz's mind is just before his death at the hands of the assassin, where he speaks with his father one last time. Now it's left up to the reader to decide if it's real or a concoction of Kurz's mind, but it doesn't really matter either way. What matters is Kurz's reaction. The childlike way he says father, momentarily revealing the lost boy inside, longing for his father's attention. And Kurz is desperate to not be forgiven, because despite all of it, despite everything he's done, under the guise of the Night Haunter, deep down, still, the loyal Conrad Kurz still lives. The big difference here between Kurz and most of his brothers is that there's no demonhood to purge with the Emperor's power. Yes, Kurz appears to have become at least a little tainted, but there was certainly no patronage to the ruinous powers. So the Emperor's power and aura would be more of a reminder of the Emperor's greatness than anything else. It's real easy for the Traitor Primarchs to talk a big game when they're the other side of the galaxy. It's a different matter entirely when you're face to face with the Emperor himself. Conrad would absolutely crumble to his knees, and the crying child inside would emerge once more when face to face with the Emperor. Of that I have no doubt. But unless the Emperor could fix Kurz's mind through power alone, I'm not sure there's enough humanity left in him to say the words needed to truly reach his son. At least going by Guilliman's thoughts on his reunion with his father. Either way though, man, I would love to see a loyal Conrad once more, even if I think it just couldn't happen. Angron. Without a shadow of a doubt, the Emperor's worst relationship with any of his sons. We were truly robbed of seeing the Primarch he was supposed to be. But as it was, the Primarch Angron never had anything but loathing for the Emperor of mankind, displaying it even to his face. The heresy was a long time coming for Angron. And with his ascension to demonhood, that certainly doesn't change. If anything, it gets heightened tenfold. His hatred for the Emperor fires his rage like nothing else. Could the Emperor use his power to remove the Butcher's nails once and for all? Possibly yes. But Angron's hatred for the Emperor is much more deeply rooted inside. Removing the rage wouldn't remove Angron's feelings, and knowing Angron, he'd probably find a way to hate the Emperor all the more just for removing the nails. Any way that I look at it, I just don't see any way Angron could ever be redeemed. Angron would have to be cloned and reduced back to the Primarch he was supposed to be before he even arrived on Nuceria. On to Mortarion. Now Mortarion is intriguing because he's the only demon Primarch we've seen actually have an encounter with the Emperor of Mankind in the current timeline, or at least an apparent aspect of the Emperor's power. And how did he react? He absolutely bricked it, running away like a scolded child. And this does not mean that Mortarion could be redeemed. Like I said, I see a true redemption not being dependent wholly on the Emperor's power, more to do with what's inside the Traitor Primarchs. So it's more to do with Mortarion's nature. Mortarion is no different to many of his traitor kin in that he never wanted or intended to become enslaved as a demon. And he actually began with an outright hatred for anything to do with the warp, making his eventual fall all the more tragic. But does this mean he'd embrace the Emperor if given the chance? No, I don't think so. Mortarion's relationship with the Emperor was strained, to say the least, harbouring a disgruntled bitterness ever since the Emperor let him fail upon his homeworld of Barbarous, ultimately stepping in himself and ending the threat Mortarion could not. And if you know anything about the Primarchs, they don't take losing well, and if there's anyone else to blame other than themselves, they'll absolutely take that road. I guess like many of us really. And the longer you hold on to a grudge, the bitterness, it will only grow and grow. And that's exactly what happened to Mortarion. Over time, as the years rolled past, he grew more and more bitter. Then combine that with the Emperor's reference to Mortarion's nature being to rebel against authority. I just don't see Mortarion being able to return to the Imperium's fold, let alone bend the knee before his one-time father, when their relationship was never the best in the first place. Okay, so that's the end of part 1. Tomorrow we'll continue with the rest of the Traitor Primarchs. But what do you think, guys? Which of the Primarchs we've discussed today could you truly see being redeemed? Not is it going to happen, but just could it? Which of them maybe in their nature still have that kernel of the Primarch they once was? Do you agree with me that Perturabo and Conrad are the most likely? Or perhaps do you see one of the others, such as Fulgrim? And if it's Angron, you definitely need to leave a comment on how that's going to happen. But as always guys, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support really means a lot to me, it truly does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.